Hi, my name is Hillal, and I want to tell you something positive about Pacific Rim Uprising. 2018 has turned into a killer year for movies. There was Black Panther, Infinity War. I can't think of any other movies. With all these massive titles hitting screens, it's easy for smaller produced films to slip through the cracks and not get the notice they deserve. The minuscule budget indie flick doesn't stand a chance against such financial giants as Marvel and Disney, and that's pretty much everyone making movies these days. With hardly 2 pennies to rub together for production, it should come as no surprise that there would be little to no advertising money left. And because of this dilemma, so many movies quietly disappear into history, with few ever noticing that they'd ever arrived in the first place. Of course, I'm talking about a film like Pacific Rim Uprising. Full disclosure, I unabashedly love the first Pacific Rim. I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan, and I've seen all but 2 of his films in theaters. How much do I love Pacific Rim? I have Gypsy Danger's logo on my Kindle. You can see that this is no recent sticker. I've been rocking this sticker since it came with the book The Art of Pacific Rim, which I purchased at full price from Barnes & Noble. Second disclosure, I'm no good with money. Giant robots fighting giant monsters is a slam dunk for me. I'm the generation that grew up with Robotech, Voltron, Gundam, Power Rangers, Ultraman, Godzilla. Giant robots and monsters was the language we spoke on the playground at school. It was the language I spoke in high school. It's the language I speak now. Hidora, Orga, Ghidorah. Was I speaking a sentence in another language, or was I naming some giant monsters? You decide. Giant robots and monsters smacking the life out of each other was an unavoidable consequence of owning a television and having a kid in the 80s. If you owned both, you were going to deal with giant robots and giant monsters. And then, just like every trend, our fascination with them just stopped, and we moved on to something else. Then, in 2013, Guillermo del Toro did something wonderful. He brought them back. Yes, we had giant monster movies before this point. After their fall in the 80s, everyone remembers Godzilla from 1998. But this was truly the first real modern American film that would star giant robots and giant monsters battling once again for the fate of mankind. However, it would appear that Pacific Rim was not going to be the commercial smash it deserved to be. It would seem as if this movie that couldn't was going to be swept away with the rest of my childhood joys. Which is why I was elated beyond measure to learn that a sequel had been produced, and that star of the latest Star Wars trilogy, John Boyega, was set to be the lead. One thing that I feel must be pointed out is that while Uprising very much exists in the same world as its predecessor, tonally and stylistically, it is a very different movie. There is a lot of good information at the start of this film to set up the audiences who may have skipped the first one, but it forgets to really nail home the important, smaller details, like what is a Nero handshake, and why are 2 pilots needed to pilot a robot? And why does Newt have a monster brain in his apartment, and what exactly is it doing to him? In these instances, you are cobbled if you never sat through the original Pacific Rim. Unfortunately, you can also be hindered about understanding the relationships of characters already established. For instance, Mako, played by Rinko Kikuchi, is the adopted daughter of Pentecost, Idris Elba's character who didn't survive the first movie. In Uprising, John Boyega plays his wayward son, so he and Mako have a history together that they talk about and allude to, but never come right out and say that they're siblings. Unless you knew that part already, there was no way you were going to catch it on this round. So the little nuances they have, and the way they talk to each other, gets a little lost in translation unless you're already aware of their relationship. But I'm not here for character development, you say. I'm not here to study the human condition under duress of giant monsters or how normal people would respond in extreme circumstances. I'm here for the fights. Well then buckle in, sister, because if it's CGI fights ye wants, it be CGI fights ye gets. This is one aspect in which I feel the sequel has got it hands down over the original. Whereas the first movie had a lot going for it, rich mythology, amazing creature design, awesome characters, the one place I feel it seriously lacked were the fight scenes. Too few and too far between. The ones we had were excellent. The first fight Gypsy Danger took part in was iconic. That shot with him dragging the freighter ship through Japan was just awesome. But just as quickly as they began, they were over. In Uprising, we get a lot more time with the robots, and they have 1.5 million new cool features and things to do. These new fights and these new features show off why being connected with a robot neurally really is the only way to fight giant monsters from another dimension. We get 4 brand new robots to fight brand new monsters, and this time around, the robots fight as a team instead of waiting to be decimated one by one. The names for the robots have never been cooler either. Gypsy Danger is now Gypsy Avenger. There's also Bravo Phoenix, Saber Athena, Guardian Bravo. All names that sound like they should be doing nothing but saving the world. What I want to be in the world of Pacific Rim is the guy who gets to name stuff. This world puts so much emphasis on what stuff is called that it's almost an obsessive compulsion. After Gypsy Avenger fights with a rogue robot, they start calling it Obsidian Fury. They couldn't even wait until the pilots of Gypsy Avenger come crawling out of it before they've already named the new menace. 3 giant monsters make it through a makeshift breach into our world, and within moments they're referred to as Kakuja, Shrikethorn, and Raijin. Seriously, is there a better gig than naming stuff? You're part of the effort to save the world, and your duty is to sit safely back at the base and come up for names of monsters as they show up. As long as we've brought up Raijin, can I gush for a second? What a great design for a monster. Before him, my favorite of the Pacific Rim monsters was Leatherback, but now it's easily Raijin. Hands down. Beautifully designed, beautifully animated. The single best thing I can say about this movie, why it's considered a home run in my house, and on repeat, is because it keeps the attention of my 5-year-old son. My little boy loved the bejesus out of this movie. The adventure this cast of characters went on was perfectly aimed at a younger demographic. It was the right amount of scary, the right amount of thrilling, and the right amount of silly. And why shouldn't it be? As I've stated, some of my fondest memories of being a kid were watching movies just like this. Taking a younger crew into the adventure this time was a huge risk. Having young pilots with stereotypical young attitudes could potentially sour the older demographic that made the first movie a hit enough to warrant a sequel. However, appealing to younger audiences assures that you'll have a fan base for the next few years should you desire to grow the brand. It's all very confusing and makes me so incredibly happy I don't have to make movies for a living. If any producers want to contact me, I'm ready for some pitch meetings. I've got a killer pirate story to sell you. I'm 38 years old. I'm 3 years removed from most demographics. And I get it. Stuff isn't being made for me anymore. And the younger people it is being made for are so different generationally that what's new seems weird and strange to me. Pretty much anything from this point on made for pop culture is not targeted at me. To hell with you, grandfather! The children are the future, but I'm the now. I'm the one with the money, not the kids. That's a reality producers of entertainment will have to reckon with. My son may love the product, but I'm the gatekeeper to what he gets to see and what gets purchased for his amusement. So you have a goal to appease both me and my kid if you want to keep making that cheddar. I think Pacific Rim Uprising does just that. It has a lot of great things going for it. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John Boyega's near-perfect mirroring of Idris Elba's accent. I don't know if it's because he's that masterful of an actor, or if Idris's accent is just really easy to parrot. Thor! Man Cub! Officer Hops! I guess the accent isn't that easy. Looks like John Boyega is that good of an actor. But if you want to talk about being thankful for an actor, be thankful for the return of my personal favorite character. Herman Gottlieb, played by Bern Gorman, who quite possibly had the single best line in the first film. Newton created a neural bridge from garbage and drifted with a kaiju. I don't know why Herman as a character brings me so much joy. He's so nerdy and awkward and exasperated by everything and everyone. I think I just answered my own question. Pacific Rim Uprising is fun chaos. The production design is very appealing, and the monsters and the robots really look great. You owe it to yourself to check it out. Or you owe it to your younger self that still enjoys watching giant monstrosities beat the hell out of each other. Give it a watch, and watch it with your kids if you're able to. I'm Hillal. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like our video and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. The dumb line.